Hello and welcome back to Smash Hit Sports. I'm your host, Cody. Today we have a packed episode. We have North Carolina's tragic collapse to Virginia. We have top teams barely avoiding disaster. We have Ohio State Penn State recap. Iowa's controversial call, a full Week 9 preview. But before we get into it, make sure to like the video. It's a huge help to the podcast if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not watching on YouTube and you're listening to the audio version, make sure you subscribe. And if you enjoy the podcast, leave a review, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. That's a huge help to the show. We don't ask a whole lot from you guys, but if you could do that, that would be tremendous. And speaking of dudes who need help, you, Nick, you need help because I whooped your ass this week in picks.
Yeah, you did. And I was talking all this game. I was saying, I got to make my picks first, so it's going to turn around. Not quite. Same thing as always. You got all the ones that we differed on right. Now, for a little bit there, like obviously Marshall JMU was early in the week, so I was like, damn it, of course I'm down 1-0 already. But then it was the 3:30 slate, and I'm thinking to myself, like, damn, like I'm going to get them. Like I feel it. Tennessee's up on Alabama. West Virginia's up on Oklahoma State. Like, I felt like everything was going my way, and then right at the last second, it totally shifted, and you were right on all of them, and I was wrong, and I'm just like, well, of course. That's just I'm on a cold streak, pissing down my leg, not built for the moment, and we'll have to fight back. A long uphill battle.
And the beautiful cherry on top was that the only thing that ruined me from a perfect day was your team losing in double overtime, which we'll talk. Let's go into Clemson because that, in all seriousness, that was a brutal game. And Miami, I don't want to take this out of obviously Miami has that terrible loss to Georgia Tech, but this isn't a bad team. Right. The problem is Clemson came into the season with college football playoff expectations, like ACC championship expectations. What now?
Yeah, we were ranked in the top 10.
How do you what's going through your mind?
So after the Florida State loss, I know I kind of, went on a little bit of a rant just because I was like, that was the loss that kind of made it official that we are no longer going to be top perennial powerhouse, scared to play Clemson type team. But this loss has got me thinking and realizing that maybe this trend or what I thought was an anomaly of terrible turnovers and terrible play call and just things that you outplay your opponent and the stupidest things throughout the course of the game cause you to lose, because that's happened pretty much. It feels like every game that Clemson's 7-7 or something in their last 14 games, and other than maybe the Notre Dame loss, every loss, I think Clemson has outplayed their opponents. So I no longer think that is just we're trying to figure it out. I think it might just be the new normal. And that's really upsetting because a lot of my friends were saying it's as if we're a fan of Illinois football now. It's gotten to that bad where it's okay, you're almost expecting the worst, and the worst actually ends up happening. And so you can't be surprised. And that's what's bothering me so much, Yeah,
it was a brutal, the 2-point conversion at the end of the game. I think some people said that was a bad play call. It was a bad decision. That should have been a handoff. They called an option play, it gave Klubnik the option. He never should have taken it himself. I think I don't want to be this guy because I hate shitting on players, especially guys who are young. But I don't know if Klubnik has it. I don't think he's the guy. And we can talk about other quarterbacks who we may or may not know are the guy. I talked I hyped up Drew Aller quite a bit for him to, shit down his leg against Ohio State. But man, I got a lot of questions.
I think Cade has the talent. I think he's just a moron. Which I've been saying it since the Duke game. I was like, he kind of, because I'm a Ravens fan, which thank God the Ravens destroyed the Lions, because that kind of like totally
Redeemed your weekend.
my like kept me afloat emotionally. But there have definitely been games where like Lamar just makes boneheaded plays, and I'll get chirped from a bunch of different people. And after the Duke game, I was like, you know what, Kate Klubnik's probably just like Lamar. He's really good, but he's also just so dumb. And he'll cost us the game sometimes. And it happened in the Duke game when he didn't, or he slid.
Yeah.
And didn't get that first down. It's like, do I hate that play? It's like, that's just so dumb, Like, I feel like you want your quarterback to be like putting it all on the line for the team, like Elway in that 98 Super Bowl. So, yeah, you saw it a bunch, win or lose this season. And, he is 19, so maybe this is just building to some. Like, I'm going to hold out hope that maybe next year it can be amazing, but I'm not very happy with him either.
Yeah, it's that, and Dabo has like the weird quote about the psychiatrist at the end of the game. Like, yeah, we got a sports psychiatrist. Like, he's going to be on suicide watch. It's like, dude, what are we?
I mean, I think honest to God, I think that's fair, right? Like we need like a school psychiatrist for Clemson alum and students, because it is truly torture at this point. I texted you after it happened. I was like, when you're up in the fourth quarter against a team with their backup quarterback, and you deep down are thinking, like, subconsciously, I was like, I think we're going to lose. That is just not a good sign. When you're Clemson, and our defense is like top 5 still statistically in college football. And I'm still like, I think we're going to lose, because we just like are we're allergic to doing the right thing and just putting a game away. And and we lost. And I was like, not surprised, but it's just torture the way it happens. So yeah, I don't mind that Dabo quote. I think it's pretty funny and accurate, but obviously it's a bold thing to say. So I get why it's a big deal.
Yeah. The ACC almost like collapsed this weekend, because you have
it crumbled a little bit.
Yeah, like Florida State in the first half, that game was tough. Like, Duke was up 2 touchdowns, and then Riley Leonard got hurt. And I love Mike Elko as a coach. He coached soft as shit in that second half. And then North Carolina, what a brutal loss. Virginia, coming into that game, had a 1 win, and it was against an FCS school. They were like, Virginia fans. I had a Virginia fan be like, hey, this is the week, like, the next coach is going to get fired, and it's going to be Tony Elliott. And then, I mean, you can't fire him after this game, but like, Virginia was one of, if not the worst program in Power 5. North Carolina, you can't lose that game.
Yeah, it is shocking. It was shocking that it was close, but it was one of those where like Oklahoma, UCF, and UCF's a much better team than Virginia. Mm-hmm. But you kind of thought like, okay, I think the better team's going to pull through in the end. Mm-hmm. And UNC, like the fact that they didn't, they like UVA's secondary, their linebackers and coverage were playing out of their minds. Like it was shocking to see. And I mean, I think it might be like the worst loss of the decade for any college football team, considering all things of like, this is a team that isn't really known for football, but you're undefeated. You're ranked in the top 10, maybe for the first time. I don't know when UNC's ever been ranked in the top 10. They kind of have like a decently like winnable out schedule, right? Like they could have gone undefeated. Mm-hmm. They had college football playoff aspirations, like what if Rutgers actually is a bad example this year. So maybe like Indiana or Northwestern beat Michigan,
Yeah.
It's like that would be the biggest deal ever. I think it's just because UNC it isn't known for their football per se, but that UNC is a really, really good team, and they lost to like one of, if not the worst Power 5 team in football. Crazy.
Yeah, that was a tremendous collapse. A conference opponent too. So now, like, when you look at the ACC standings, they're obviously still near the top, but like now them and Louisville are neck and neck. Like if they don't
Weren't
drop
they at home too? Wasn't it a home game?
Not sure.
I think I'm 93% sure.
Yep, it was at home.
That's inexcusable.
Yeah, you can't lose
spread?
That's a good question. 20 something probably.
I didn't even consider looking at it. But
no, we didn't pick that game in our games for last week because
it never would have been on there because it's as if UNC was playing like William and Mary, or like some Wofford or the Citadel. It felt like that. I think it was around 25.
Yeah, that's crazy. You just can't lose those types of games. Mac Brown, what are we doing?
Nuts.
A bunch of other top teams came really close. If you stayed up late enough to watch it, it was a 10:30 kickoff. But Washington Arizona State was a nail biter. Washington was down at half, which we'll talk about that game a little bit in the Heisman Trophy discussion. Oklahoma, I mean, a terrible 2-point conversion call for UCF to try to tie that game up. But that was a close game, like came down literally to the wire. Texas and Houston was tied in the third quarter. Tulane almost lost, but Michael Pratt is him. We were so close to having a 2007 college football disaster, class.
We almost went into the chaos mode, which is, sort of what I was alluding to a little bit last week when I was saying a 2-loss team could make the playoffs still technically. And the more I see LSU play, the more I think that they're actually
stop. They played
really
Army.
Good.
They played Army. Relax.
Yeah, I know, but it's just like Jaden Daniels is a Heisman candidate number 1 across the majority of websites and
except
they're
not
playing
sports
really,
books because they're idiots.
Right, but they're playing really, really well. But yeah, Washington, honestly, as crazy as it is, Arizona State choked that game away. Like Washington didn't come back and win it, but Arizona State, I think up like 7-6 or something like that, whatever the score was.
Yeah, they were up 7-6 and threw a pick six like that.
And they threw like a 95-yard pick six like that. It was a 14-point swing, and Arizona State lost by 8. So that would have been probably worse than the UNC UVA game. Like it's crazy.
Oh, that would have been a worse loss for sure.
Yeah, I think Arizona State's a little bit better than UVA, but it's still shocking that was a game. Oklahoma, I said this in the Big 12 preview in my record predictions all throughout the year. I was like, I love that game. I love the revenge game factor of it. I think UCF could win. And then we saw UCF getting raw dogged throughout the season a little bit and just looking not great. So I changed it to Oklahoma, but it was kind of nice to see that I was right in that sense. Texas had to make a 4th down stop against Houston.
Yeah, which I will give Texas a little bit of a break because Ewers got hurt. So I'll give him a little bit of a break. But still.
Are we going to see some Archie? Did Archie?
Nah, it's going to be Malik Murphy, dude.
Right, but I don't know. Maybe if Malik Murphy doesn't perform as well as he needs to, blah, blah, blah.
Maybe.
We might see it. The point is that'd be really exciting if we saw some Archie. And then Tulane was playing a pretty bad North Texas team, and I think they were down in the 4th. They had to escape and avoid disaster there. But they all pulled through, and I bet they're glad that they weren't the only team that had this because we can kind of chalk up, it's just kind of a wild week, right? I still have Washington as a definite a championship contender.
Yeah. Yep. Speaking of championship contenders, Ohio State and Penn State, a defensive juggernaut battle. I tweeted right after the game that Michigan is going to blow both of these teams away. I take that back. I think more than anything that these defenses are just really fucking good.
The Ohio State defense is one of the best defenses I've ever seen.
Jim
And I feel
Knowles,
like
man. Jim
it's
Knowles.
so good as far as like name recognition and high-end NFL draft talent. We were talking about it after the Notre Dame game. I was shocked because it was like someone's coming off the edge, getting pressure, and you try to double team him, and then you have Michael Hall Jr. slip in as the D tackle and get the sack or the run stop. And I feel like efficiency ratings and like FPI and whatnot, they don't have Ohio State as high as some other teams. I think Penn State's actually still maybe number one statistically as far as defense goes. So people aren't talking about Ohio State as having like a Georgia-esque defense, but I think by NFL draft time, like you have Denzel Burke, who's probably going to go first round, Tommy Eichenberg and Jack Sawyer in the linebacker duo are fantastic. You have JT Tuimoloau, who I really want to go to the Ravens. I think he's definitely a first-round guy. Michael Hall's going to go first round probably. Josh Proctor, who played out of his mind. Ransom is the strong safety. He's really good. It's just like never-ending, amazing talent on that defense.
Yeah, they've got guys everywhere. So does Penn State. I think this game ultimately came down to like, first off, if I have to hear Gus Johnson say Maserati Marv one more time, I'm going to fucking cut my ears off. I love Gus Johnson, but god damn it, dude. 15 times is way too many.
Luckily, I didn't have the volume on for that.
But it was a really, really great defensive game, and Marvin Harrison and like the playmakers on Ohio State made the difference. Drew Allard didn't have a guy like that he could fall back on, and Kyle McCord did. I still think that both of these teams will give Michigan absolute fits, because Michigan has not played a defense within the same stratosphere as these two defenses. Not even close.
Yeah. So, not even close.
Yeah. I mean, as of right now, Michigan's best win is against a bowl eligible Rutgers. Like Michigan season doesn't start till November 11th. So we'll see then, but I'm not counting either of these two teams out. Like there's also, really
we should probably touch on the Michigan scandal a little bit because it's kind of happening right in front of our eyes.
Yeah. At first I kind of blew it off because I was like, all right, you're scouting hand signs, like whatever. Everybody scouts hand, like that's not something that like is crazy. And then Pete Thamel, I think he writes for ESPN. Michigan staffer Connor Stallions bought tickets for more than 30 games at 11 Big Ten schools over the past 3 years. That's 10 games a year over the past 3 years. Also, video evidence of sideline taping is expected to be sent to the NCAA this week, caught by stadium surveillance this year.
Yeah.
Wow. Could Michigan have the greatest vacated season of all time?
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, again, I saw right before we hopped on the tweet about whoever, Connor, whatever, that staff guy on Michigan that clearly that's you can't, like, there's no way you're going to Michigan every single Michigan game traveling to like 31 is pretty much the whole season. So like every year for 3 years. So there's something suspicious going on. A lot more is going to come out, I guess, after we record. But for right now, it's looking pretty shaky. Like if you're a Michigan fan, you're probably feeling a bit nervous.
To me, this all but says Jim Harbaugh's a lock for the NFL next year. An absolute lock for the NFL next year. Congratulations, Chicago Bears. You're going to get your guy. Jim Harbaugh is coming to Chicago.
That'd be good. Good for Chicago if they got him.
Yeah, this is brutal. We'll see how it plays out.
Also, just, I mean, what? Michigan has like half of their talent is leaving this year. Like, so it just makes too much sense. I'm with you.
Yep. Let's talk about Iowa. You wrote here in the notes, Iowa was robbed. No, they weren't. No, they weren't, dude.
Yeah.
Give me your argument.
Where was the fair catch? I didn't see it.
It's not okay. So here's the rule, right? And I understand where you're coming from. It's like, where is the fair catch? That's not the problem. So what they actually called was an invalid signal, which is Article 3 of the NCAA rulebook. An invalid signal is anything that can be deemed or confusing as a fair catch. And the reason that this exists is because it's for the safety, like you have the punt return man safety. That is why a fair catch exists. On the opposite is you have the punt team safety to prevent guys from being devious with their fair catch signals. If this had happened in the beginning of the game, nobody would have said anything. The reason being is because the next time he did it, Minnesota would have fucking decapitated him. You know what I mean? Like they would have just completely ignored his. If I was coaching, if I was the special teams coordinator and that happened in the first quarter, I would tell my guys, do not stop for any fucking reason. If he puts his hands up, you take his head off. I don't care. Like that is.
He didn't even put his hands up though.
But the pointing and the waving, dude, like that, it's so close. The only difference between a fair catch is if his arm is here or if it's here, right? Like that is the only. It was difference.
Like this. Like I feel like he was saying like clear out.
Yes, but you can't do that per the rules. It sucks because you never see that call. You never see it, and it decided the game. So that's why it double sucks. It sucks, but it is the rule.
I just think that shouldn't be the rule. I think that's. I don't think anyone on the punt defense team thought that he was signaling a fair catch. Like,
they
fair
didn't.
Catch,
you're not wrong. They didn't. They played through the whistle the whole time. Like
right. Like there's no way that if someone's like, and he didn't even do that. Right. He was just like, oh, like with his hands low, like oh, you know.
Yep.
And you know, like I just feel like you'll see some like weird fair catches where someone just like does that. Like they'll throw their hand up for half a second and it's called a fair catch. It's like, well, then the rule should just be if your hand is like where your head is, then it's fine. That is not, that like should never be anything. So that's why, in my opinion, it was rocked, because it was also just such an electric moment. Like that stadium erupted. They had to endure through like 3 total yards in the second half. Mm-hmm. And that's their best player by far in Cooper DeJean, whatever.
Yeah, DeJean he's that dude. White corner, baby. We're going to have 2 in a row. We had Riley Moss last year, and then Cooper DeJean might be
Cooper
first round.
DeJean's going to start. Like he's absolutely starting in an NFL for an NFL team next year. And it was just so electric. So like it was disappointing to me that they called that, especially when it's a call that most fans don't even understand, right? Yep. Like not even me. I was like, I don't know Article 3 of the fucking rule book.
I mean, I had to look it up. It's not like I fucking knew that. But, it absolutely sucks. That being said, you cannot rely on punt returns to save your seat or save your game every week and expect to not drop one. I'm so glad that this happened because we don't have to pretend that Iowa can go 11-1 and win the Big Ten West anymore. Like this. Wisconsin, now obviously they play Ohio State this week, but Wisconsin is still live to like possibly. I just don't want to see Iowa in Indianapolis because that will make for the worst Big Ten championship game of all time. Like I don't want to see it.
It's so wild. The Big Ten West is just so consistently underwhelming.
Yeah.
And this year is just like the cherry on top. Obviously it's going to change next year, but they're going out in true Big Ten fashion because like Wisconsin, who is still probably the most disappointing team for my personal opinions in the preseason and what they've done in the regular season. But in a crazy world, we're at home against Ohio State, they win, and then they make the Big Ten championship game. Like they could have a fantastic year where they've looked pretty damn bad and had to score like 17 points to beat Illinois, I think. On Saturday, they had to outscore Illinois 17-0 in the fourth quarter to just escape with a win there.
Yeah.
So they aren't good, but it's a crazy, crazy division.
Yeah, it's Iowa's now averaging less than 20 points a game. They are the worst in the FBS offensively.
Yeah, bye Kirk.
Yep. So let's last couple things here. Caleb Williams, should he sit out? I think this is the stupidest goddamn argument in the world. You are a college football player prior to being what is presumptively the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. It's insane to me that you would think about sitting out. And here's the reason. That number 1 pick is not locked at all. At all. And he has shown major flaws this year. Like, that is, his decision-making has not been ideal. Like, he now has, I saw his stats against winning teams, or like teams above 500, I think it's against ranked teams. I apologize. His stats against ranked teams are not good. They're not good. Like, looking back on it, I was shocked. So for me to sit here and be like, Caleb Williams is a surefire number 1 pick, maybe. But like, Drake May has looked really goddamn good too. And if you end up with the Bears getting the number 1 pick and maybe they decide they want to keep Justin Fields, like, maybe he's not. Like, I understand that it's like, it's all risk if he continues to play. I get that. But if you don't think that people will think of him differently, both the coaches who are drafting him, the GMs who are evaluating him, and his teammates in the locker room next season, when he is on an NFL team, you don't think his team, well, like, what's to stop him from quitting when, hey, my team can't make the playoffs anymore, let's shut our quarterback down? Like, what? It's chicken shit.
Yeah, so my thing is, I think that if he doesn't go number 1, it is the biggest mistake any team could make in the history of making decisions. I don't, like, for me, it's, when you look at the eye test, it's so clear that he is probably the closest thing to Patrick Mahomes that we've seen in a long time. And you look at, obviously Mahomes wasn't really being thought of as a number 1, overall pick guy, because he didn't have all that much success at Texas Tech record-wise. And looking at his stats here, he had 93 touchdowns, 29 interceptions, and a passer rating of 152 throughout his career, which is really good. And you could see it flashiness-wise and like what he was able to do, that he was definitely a first-round guy and was going to, succeed in the NFL. Caleb Williams, on the other hand, has 86 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. Like, people are saying, terrible turnover problems, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's still leaps and bounds above most quarterbacks in college football. His passer rating is 171.5. I did not know it went up that high. But that's his career passer rating, and his highest is this year, right? So I just feel like he's a shoo-in type guy, and if that's the case, if he keeps playing, it actually might hurt his stock, and the injury risk is there. So I would not be shocked, or would I judge him if he did. Now, I do agree with what you're saying. I think that a lot of people would judge him. It would kind of make him viewed as less of like a football guy and more of just like a diva type guy because of the nail painting history and all of that. And, maybe people would just start to hate him even before he takes an NFL snap. But I get it. I get why it's a discussion.
I think barring catastrophic injury, I think that it would only, like, it would hurt his draft stock to sit out more than any of his play on the field would the last 5 weeks of the year.
I don't know,
but
maybe.
And then the Heisman Trophy. I don't know if you looked at the odds. J.J. McCarthy is now the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. And if that happens, I will quit talking about football. That's the dumbest shit in the world. He has not done a goddamn thing. J.J. McCarthy, like, don't get me wrong, his stats are great. They're phenomenal. What's his Heisman moment? When he scored his 3rd touchdown against Rutgers in the second half before they pulled him in the 4th quarter? Or what, when he went up double digits against Michigan State early? Like, what has he done?
So,
he hasn't played anybody. This is stupid.
The thing with the Heisman Trophy odds are they, have to take in predictive analytics. So, like, I do not think as of right now he should be the front runner by any means, through 8 weeks. But if Vegas is thinking to themselves, okay, if Michigan is going to be favored against Ohio State, favored against Penn State, favored to make the college football, and honestly, now they're favored to win the whole thing. They are
favored to win the whole thing. Yep.
So if that's the case, the quarterback of that team will likely win the Heisman. And
which is stupid. That's the dumbest thing in the world.
Right, but I would get it a lot more if J.J. McCarthy goes out against that stout Ohio State defense and puts up pretty good numbers and, like, wins that game, and against Penn State's defense, he wins that game and, wins it all, blah, 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 then I'd be like, okay, maybe I don't love it, but like I wouldn't, quit talking about the sport. But as of right now, if they had like a Heisman mid-season edition, then it'd be the dumbest thing in history to have that go to JJ McCarthy. So,
yes.
I
hate it. I just, it grinds my gears. Anyway, talk about, we got to give some shout outs. We got a little props, a little credit. We have to give some players, teams, people credit for making college football great, because God damn it, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Yeah, I want you to lead off on this, because you facilitated this list, and I love every ounce of it. So let's go through the props too.
Yeah, props 2 segment. We're starting with props 2, Air Force, JMU, and Liberty for advancing to 7-0. It's great. It's not every year you see 3 Group of 5 teams 7-0 at this point in the season. We have 8 days until the college football playoff selection committee gives out their rankings. I would love if that OG ranking this year had 3 Group of 5 teams in it. That would be awesome. And it's looking like that's probably the case. Liberty plays tomorrow, so hopefully we get this episode out before then, and hopefully they end up winning. But yeah, props to them. You can take the next.
Yeah, and the thing too with that is, like, they've all played really well, which is cool. Like, it's not like, some of these guys are looking their way. They've all played really well. The battle for the Cotton Bowl should be fun. Marvin Harrison Jr. potentially taking over as the Heisman frontrunner. I think Michael Penix has played phenomenal. I think Jaden Daniels should be, and you mentioned that earlier, should be the frontrunner for the Heisman. But what Marvin Harrison is he is putting that Ohio State offense on his back, and what he did against such a prolific Penn State. Like, I still think Penn State has a top 5 defense in the country, if not number 1. What he did against that defense in order to win them that game, like, outstanding. So shout out Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, I mean, what it comes down to is if Ohio State didn't have Marvin Harrison Jr., do they win that game?
No.
And honestly, probably not.
No.
They probably lose to Penn State if they don't have Marvin Harrison Jr. So yeah, props to Marvin Harrison. Props to Ollie Gordon, the Oklahoma State running back. He put up 282 yards, 4 touchdowns, willed his team to a victory against West Virginia. Very back and forth victory that I think the biggest difference in that game was the rushing yards for Oklahoma State.
Yeah, and shout out to Mike Gundy for finding an identity in this team. Like, I was kind of, I mean, we talked about it. I thought Oklahoma State was dead. I had them going 10-2 this year, and I was like, I have never been more wrong about a team. Like, I have never been more incorrect about a team. And now they're 5-2.
Right.
And they have 1 Big 12 loss. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, that Oklahoma State, not dead yet. And a lot of that has been because they've found an identity, and that's that they run the damn football, and Ollie Gordon has looked great. Rutgers, man. Rutgers. They beat and covered against Indiana with only 39 passing yards in order to become bowl eligible. That's a beautiful thing. That is a sentence. That's a sentence that only makes sense to college football fans. That, like, the fact that Rutgers beating and covering against Indiana with 39 passing yards is like a tremendous. That's insane. I love it.
It's
Rutgers.
Insane. It's Rutgers. It's like the Detroit Lions of college football, where I'm happy for Rutgers. Props to them. Props to all Rutgers fans for sticking through, and very happy for them. Props to the Iowa-Minnesota game for hitting the under with ease. Lowest under ever, and it slammed. God, we weren't even nervous for a second. That was awesome.
Yeah, my super megalodon play of the millennium, absolutely no sweat. I mean, what a game. It was electric. Utah in a season where they had a preseason all conference, maybe all American tight end in Kuthi and Cam Rising. They have now officially shut them down both for the entire year. And Kyle Whittingham does not give a fuck. He just goes out there and he wins football games. That man is a top 10 coach. It's been when's Cam Rising? When's Cam Rising? When's Cam Rising playing? Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Utah goes out and wins games. It's Nick, I'm going to make a bold statement here. They might be the team to beat in the Big 12 moving forward once they transition to the Big 12 and Texas and Oklahoma go out. Utah might be the team to beat.
Yeah, which I actually I think that's probably not even all that bold when you look at what the Big 12 is without Texas and Oklahoma this year and who's coming in. So I like that. Yeah, definitely props to Whittingham. I feel like normally when you hear about like drama like this where it's like, oh, your quarterback who is like, and you have an all-star quarterback and a really great roster, but like he needs to play. When's he playing? And he basically is just like sacrificing this season to get a medical redshirt or even just quit football altogether to start coaching, which I'm hearing rumblings of. Normally you'd see that headline Sports Center, like the drama going on, that like, they're losing games because of it. But no, like they're 6-1 with a tough loss to Oregon State on the road. They beat USC for the third straight time. Like Utah's legit, man. And it's just props to them for navigating it. I'd like to give props to Nebraska. They are above 500 through 7 games for the first time in like 5 years. It's been a real tough go for Nebraska fans since probably I was born. But
true.
But they are, especially in a pretty bad Big Ten as far as the bottom of the pack goes. Nebraska's I think they're going to get to a bowl game. And I'd like to give them props for that.
Yeah, and the rest of their season, like they have some winnable games. Michigan State, Purdue, Iowa, at home. Like Maryland, Wisconsin, a little bit tougher, but like they could make a bowl. And I think like their win total was 6.5. I think that's a win for Matt Rule if you come in after everything that has happened to this Nebraska program over the last decade. To come in and make a bowl in your first season, I think is huge. And then last one, props to Nevada for winning a football game.
Yeah, good job, Nevada.
I didn't think you were going to do it this year.
No, neither did I.
Damn.
I'm shocked that you did it. You had to win 6-0 to do it.
Hey, look, we don't disparage wins, okay? Mississippi State winning 7-3 against Arkansas, like wins. You got to take them when you can get them.
Trivia question: Who's the last winless team in college football? Do you know?
I don't. I want to. It's UMass has a win. Is it Sam Houston State?
It is. Yeah, it's Sam Houston State. Nice.
They were favored and lost to UTSA this last week, which weird. So yeah, going into the week 9 predictions, I obviously went 11-1 last week. We talked about it. Nick went 6-6. It's fine. I'm up 68-33. Nick is at 54-47. But I can feel a comeback coming. I can. Yeah, I mean
we're above 500.
Yes. So let's talk about the games. There's one game that we didn't throw into the mix here that I just want to briefly talk about. That like, hey, keep an eye out for it. It means something. It's not going to be on our picks because I think we're both going to pick the same team here. It's Texas. But it's 5-2 BYU. 5-2 BYU playing Texas.
I think when I added the teams for our game picks, it was before I knew the extent of Quinn Ewers' injury.
Yep.
So in reality, yes, I would pick Texas. You would pick Texas. If we want to add that and take something away, I'm not opposed. I'm not sure what we would get rid of. It doesn't really matter, but we're both going Texas anyway. So, But yeah, that's definitely interesting because the spread's still 17.5, but there might be some sneaky value there on BYU because we don't know what we're going to get from Texas's offense.
Yeah, I do like BYU plus 17.5 in that one. It's not on my. I'm going to keep the betting play to one play because it worked so well last week. I'm just going to do that until it misses, and then I'll go back to just firing darts at the board. But I do like BYU plus 17.5. I'll be on that this week. But let's start noon slate, another Big 12 matchup. Oklahoma has to go into Lawrence, Kansas, in what should be a pretty hostile environment. Kansas has come out firing to start the year. I believe they are 5-2 as well. The Big 12 has some really good starts the year. Kansas is undefeated at home, although they are 2-2 in conference play. Kansas is a 10-point dog. And I think if Oklahoma doesn't come in sharp, they're on upset alert.
Yeah. I definitely am surprised by the line. I guess it's a little bit of the home field thing. The over-under is really high. It's 66. I honestly, just out of the suspicion of 10 points to me, I was so confident in Texas covering their spread against Kansas. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma, obviously, they beat that Texas team, but they're only getting a 10-point cushion. So I'm not going to touch on it. I can't find any value. I am going to go Oklahoma for my game picks, though.
Yep, I'm going Oklahoma as well. Kansas coming off a bye, so they will be fresh and ready to roll. Not much to talk about in this game. South Carolina at Texas A&M. I'm picking Texas A&M. You're picking Texas A&M. Turns out the South Carolina team might fucking stink.
Yeah, I think you can victory lap a little bit there because you said they were going to stink. I was kind of anti that. They've been pretty disappointing. I kind of thought that maybe against a not great Missouri defense that they were going to, at least keep that close, but not at all. They lost by 16, did not cover. They stink. That makes sense. The spread's there. I'm not going to take a bet on it though, but yeah, I'm going A&M as well.
For the sake of our bet, both South Carolina and Vanderbilt are at 2 wins. So
and they play each other eventually, right?
Something to think about.
That game's going to be we should hop on
we'd live stream South Carolina.
Yeah, we should hop on a live
Vanderbilt.
stream and sweat that out. Nick and Cody sweat out.
It's November 11th. That's the same day as Penn State, Michigan, and we're out here just
we're hop on our IG live.
Vanderbilt, South Carolina.
We have a panic attack watching Vanderbilt, South Carolina. That is going to be awesome.
That's absolutely disgusting. I love it. Oh, shit. To the ACC, we got 2 straight ACC games in a row. Clemson at NC State and then Duke at Louisville. Clemson at NC State, I think, it's an important game for your mental health. I also think it's an important game for Dabo to be hey, I still have it. I'm still Dabo. I'm still here. Because this NC State team stinks. They are terrible offensively, one of the worst offensive teams in the Power 5. And you have to go into North NC State. How are you feeling about this game?
So part of me thinks that Clemson is kind of falling off the train tracks as far as their mental state inside the locker room. Obviously, part of that is because of Dabo's now infamous quote, but just the morale in general from who I've talked to, obviously, I have a lot of people I know that still go there, and they're just everyone's kind of down in the dumps. So I feel this could just be a game where everything just falls off, and it's just wow, Clemson goes 6-6, and they're playing in the Gasparilla Bowl, and we're going into next season hating our lives. But I will say that after the last time Clemson lost, which was you got to remember that Clemson should have beat Florida State had they made a 29-yard field goal.
Yep.
So it's not like Clemson's bad. It's just there's too many morons. I don't want to get all mad, but I picked Syracuse to beat Clemson to light a fire. I can't afford to do that now that I'm down 14 in our game pick record. So I'm going to go Clemson, and just hope that all is well this week.
Yeah, I'm going to ride with Clemson as well and hope that you are right. Duke at Louisville is a really interesting game. This is kind of that second tier of the ACC. I still think this Duke team is really good. I mean, when you look at their 2 losses, they are to Notre Dame and Florida State. That is nothing to be ashamed of. These are 2 really good teams. That being said, I don't trust this Duke offense right now. And say what you will, that Florida State's defense is really good. They are really good. And Duke still put up 20, but this is at Louisville. This is going to be a tough environment. Louisville showed up and showed out against the Notre Dame crowd. I think they will show up and show out again, even though it is a noon kickoff. Here's the reason that I'm going with Louisville. Against Florida State, Riley Leonard and Henry Bellin IV, which is the most Duke quarterback name of all time, Henry Bellin IV, went a combined 8 for 22 for 76 yards and an interception. Yeah. Like, I don't trust this offense at all. So give me Duke. I like give me Louisville. I like Jamari Thrash. I think Plummer is up and down as a quarterback, man, but if he's up in this game, I think Louisville wins and covers.
So my thing here is that, like, I can't get it out of my head when Louisville played NC State on a Friday a couple weeks ago, and I got to see kind of the demons that the Louisville offense have to offer. And Duke's defense is still really good, like really, really good. And I feel like it's awesome when Riley Leonard's starting, because you could even tell, like, when Riley Leonard was out there before we got hurt, like, he wasn't playing great, but the energy was just different.
They play better.
So there's that going for Louisville, because now they kind of have, like, Duke is not really confident on offense. That's a guarantee. But I do think that if you have a week to prepare and set up your offense, and kind of the defense knows all week long that they're going to have to go win this game, Duke has enough talent and ability and heart on that defense to, I think, just really dominate. So I'm going, like, I love the under in it, but I'm going with Duke just because I think that Louisville, again, they have one game that has them ranked, and it's that Notre Dame game. Everything else has just kind of been throwaway games against useless teams. So
that is a fair point. In this game, I mean, 3.5 point spread, it'd be a coin flip neutral site. UNLV at Fresno State, an interesting game in the Mountain West. UNLV has exceeded my expectations, certainly. I know a lot of people were high on Fresno State going into the season, but UNLV looks really good. I think we differ on this one. I have UNLV, you have Fresno State, so an important game for the board. And then a Battle of Ohio, Miami of Ohio versus the Bobcats. I'm taking the Bobcats in this one. The Maple Missile, their quarterback, O'Rourke, is so much fun. That dude slings it. I mean, just throws the football around. So now, I like Ohio.
Remember that when we did our week 0, I think the one game that we were both wrong on was picking Ohio over San Diego State.
Yes,
the same San Diego State team that just got shut out and lost to winless Nevada.
Okay, but Curtis O'Rourke got hurt in that game.
That's true. And that's a fair assessment. I think the spread is weird. It's 7.
This is a super weird spread.
It feels like a pick'em. I'm probably going to get this wrong. But again, we're looking at the MAC East and MAC West. They're one of the last conferences that uses divisions like that. And like outside of Buffalo, which maybe they could like sneak their way into the MAC championship game, it's really down to Miami, Ohio versus Ohio. And so Toledo. I just think it's going to be, don't forget who?
Toledo's
on the MAC West.
Oh, okay. Yeah. For the East. You're right. My bad.
Toledo is, I think, locked in, going to be in the MAC championship game. It's whether they're against Miami, Ohio. So that's like, they're both 3-1 in conference, both 6-2. So this is just a really important game. And in important games, I think that you can kind of throw away some of the shady, fishy Vegas lines, because it doesn't take in like mindset as much. So I'm going to go with Miami, Ohio, just and hope and pray. I'll just hope and pray. That's all. But I do think I'm probably going to be wrong on that.
Yeah, I don't hate that though. Moving on, a great Pac-12 matchup. We get a ranked Oregon against a ranked Utah, a little ranked matchup here. The Pac-12 continues to have great games each and every Saturday, or at least it has so far in conference play. This week is no different. I'm on Oregon here. And the reason being is when you look at Utah has played well defensively against every conference opponent that they've beaten. They beat UCLA, played great defense, held them to 7. They beat Cal, held Cal to 14. Obviously, like USC still scored 32 against them, but like they got stops when they needed to get stops. The only team that beat Utah was Oregon State, another team that can play really good defense, get down in the muck with them, like dirty it up. That game was. I think Oregon has the chance to do that because I think Oregon has in that tier of defenses with Oregon State, Utah, and Oregon. I think those are the best 3 defenses in the Pac-12. This line, it was 6.5. It has now moved to 7. But give me Oregon. I think that should be a close game.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have the exact same thoughts as you. I like Oregon because I do think that Utah's offense is not going to be able to get what they want against Oregon. So, yeah, I see a really low-scoring game, maybe something similar to that 21-7 Oregon State game, where it's just going to be like Utah 3 and out, can't get the run game going, and it's just kind of like I want it to be a good game. I'm not really expecting it to be, and I'm going to go with Oregon. And I actually like Oregon on the spread as well, but not enough to put it in my best bets.
Yep, I like Oregon as well. I'm pissed I didn't get it at 6.5. I might stay away at 7. We'll see if that line continues to move. Always, when you guys are betting, be smart. Like, keep an eye on the lines. Georgia at Florida, the world's largest cocktail party neutral site game. 14.5 point spread is a little bit closer than I thought it was going to be.
I love it.
I'm going to take Florida.
I'm taking Florida, baby.
I'm going to take Florida on the points. I think Georgia wins outright. At the end of the day, What?
I have Florida.
What?
I have Florida written down.
Stop.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I have written down.
No, you don't believe that. You don't believe that.
I don't.
Okay.
I forget. I think it was like 2 a.m. when I was doing this on Saturday night.
Jesus. Yeah.
I just watched like Washington, Arizona State, come down to the wire. I was like, you know what?
Florida can
Give me
do
Florida. And this is the thing though. Like if you're going Georgia, I have to go Georgia because I'll just be ecstatic regardless if Florida wins this game. I don't need Florida in my game picks. I have to start being smarter with this shit. But yeah, it's always an important game. It's played in Jacksonville. It's you're gonna see half the stadium blue and orange, half red and black. It's just gonna be fantastic. It's that classic 3:30 CBS SEC game, and we're winding down on the season. Remember, Big Ten's taking that next year, so you got to take advantage of watching these SEC on CBS games, and I'm going to be tuned in for this one for sure.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. Graham Mertz has surprised me, certainly, and put up some pretty good numbers this year. I'm interested to see if he can continue that against Georgia or if that was a result of playing teams like South Carolina and, some of the weaker defenses in the SEC. So moving on, another SEC matchup that it intrigues me, but not as much, mainly just because I was disappointed in how Kentucky played. But Tennessee at Kentucky is a pretty big game. Kentucky's a 3.5 point dog. Should be a good game. We'll see if Tennessee can bounce back. I expect that they do. But like at Kentucky, like at Kroger Field, this game is by no means this is not a get right game for Tennessee. This is you gotta go out and fucking win the thing.
Yeah, it's a 3.5 point spread in favor of Tennessee. I'm gonna go Kentucky here. Just take home field advantage and hope that maybe I feel like it might be kind of like a chaos finish type game where it's close and then like anything can happen. So This just feels like one where I have to differ from you if I want to make it back. I do believe Kentucky can do it. Tennessee impressed me, especially defensively, to start the game against Alabama. For a little bit there, I was actually like, Tennessee is 100% going to win this game. They ended up losing by a good amount, but it's not like Tennessee's bad. But again, Kentucky, they were ranked once upon a time. They're going to be in a bowl game. Devin Leary, their offense, Ray Davis. I think they can do it. I don't think I don't think they're going to get flustered by how good Tennessee's defense has been.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all. And if you look at Tennessee, what they've done on the road since they beat Alabama at home, right? So since that win last year, they lost on the road at Georgia. They lost on the road at South Carolina. They beat Vanderbilt on the road. And then they lost on the road at Florida this year. And they lost on the road at Alabama this year. And now they go on the road to Kentucky after playing Alabama. I'm almost talking myself into Kentucky. I'm not going to do it. But I could talk myself into it.
It makes sense. It's really like a split decision type thing. Should be a fun game though.
Yep. We'll be tuned in. Nice little 7:00 kickoff. They'll do the checkerboard pattern like that. Kentucky will be popping for that one. Colorado at UCLA. I'm going to be honest. I think UCLA's shot at a bowl game died when they let Stanford come back. That being said, should be a fun game. We'll see if Shadur Sanders, can throw up some points, whatever. Another night game that we can watch, but UCLA by handedly.
I actually kind of like Colorado's spread here. I think people have sort of started to fall off of the wagon, which is fair. It makes sense. But I still think they're very capable of kind of shocking the public in weird ways.
Yep.
And I wouldn't be surprised if this is one of them. I actually think this is one of the games preseason that I had Colorado winning en route to their 6 wins, which is looking likely. So part of me wants to take Colorado here, but a 17-point spread is just too much, and I cannot afford to be foolish, so I'm taking UCLA, but I do like Colorado plus the points.
Yep. Massive Big Ten matchup, 7:30 kickoff. It's at Camp Randall. This game's at Wisconsin. Ohio State at Wisconsin. Ohio State coming off of a massive, massive win at home against Penn State. This line's 14.5. Against Wisconsin's backup quarterback, against a Wisconsin team that had to fight back tooth and nail against Illinois. And yet, this is a 14.5-point spread. Total's 44.
I think that it's honestly really good that Wisconsin ended up winning that Illinois game because, if they had lost that would have been a pretty embarrassing loss. I feel like the energy in Camp Randall this weekend would have been pretty low. A lot of people, the fraternity squad, would just be like, I don't care as much anymore because we're 4-3. But this is now still a big game. This is a game that if Wisconsin wins, they're jumping into the top 20 in the rankings with 2 losses. But
easily.
But if they were 4-3 and they win this game, they're probably not even ranked still, blah, blah, blah. So I think this matters a lot to Wisconsinites. Not that it wouldn't have, but I just think it matters that much more that they are kind of the front runners in the Big Ten West, and maybe this is a rematch of the Big Ten championship game. This is also the one game on Wisconsin's schedule that matters a big amount, which is why I had Wisconsin in my CFP Final Four to start the season. So I'll be rooting for Wisconsin really heavily. I'm going to take Ohio State for my game picks, though. And genuinely, I do think Ohio State's going to win because it is Wisconsin's backup quarterback. So
yep. So here's the deal. I actually like Braden Lockie. He played pretty well against Illinois. He threw the ball a lot, 41 attempts, 21 for 41, so a little over 50%. But he had 240 yards and 2 touchdowns. With what Wisconsin does offensively, it's not anything to shake a stick at. Last week, Braylon Allen had 29 carries for 145 yards and a touchdown, average 5 yards a carry.
He's going to get swallowed.
He will. He will. This game
30 carries, 24 yards.
This game's going to come down to Lockie. The over-under is 44. It's going to be a low-scoring game.
Yeah.
I like Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I don't want to touch the spread either because I can see this being 10-7 or something where it's whoa, Wisconsin, whoa, and then
I am taking the spread. I'm taking Wisconsin to cover. I like the 14.5. I think that's the right line.
Yeah, that is a nice football number. So, when Vegas can give you 14.5, and then you get like that 2 touchdown or the touchdown 2 field goals.
Yep.
And it hits on your side. It's always smart to kind of look for games like that. Florida is another example. So I will be taking Florida plus 14.5.
The Super Tees.
In the Super Tees, we'll have to see. It didn't do all that well this past week. But, I just can't bite the bullet on taking that Wisconsin spread because I think it's just like low scoring. And then when Wisconsin tries to come back, they're going to fail. And Ohio State will just kind of like pull away, kind of like they did against Maryland. And then I'll just be mad at myself for taking 14.5. So
that's fair. That is totally fair. Last game of the slate, Oregon State at Arizona, 10:30 kickoff, Pac-12 after dark. These are the games that we live and die with, at least betting on totals here. I'm going to bet the under 57. I can tell you that much right now. That being said, this game, like, really could be a lot of fun. Arizona is not ranked in the top 25. Oregon State, I believe they were 11th, 12th?
Yeah, I think they're 11 now. I think.
Yeah, they're sitting at 11 in the AP top 25, and this is a 3.5-point spread.
Mm-hmm.
At Arizona.
Baby. Arizona's like a good team all of a sudden.
Damn, I don't hate this at all. Yeah, I'm taking Oregon State. This game is going to be a battle, and I can't wait.
I am so excited. This is great. Like, it's one of the 10:30 games that I am most excited for this season.
On Halloween, dude? Or no, not.
It's honest to God, like maybe my favorite game on the slate as far as like what I'm most excited to watch.
Yeah.
So get, I guess, that segment out of the way. But yeah, and it's coming in on Halloween, Halloween weekend. I'm going to go with Arizona. They were my pick for most surprising team, just based on what they've done recently. We said it. Their 3 losses are USC in a game they probably could have, should have won. Washington, they lost by 7 in a really close game. And then Mississippi State in overtime, or maybe even double overtime. So, like, they're like a pin in a needle away from being like undefeated, maybe even 6-1 or something. They get a home game. I think the belief that team has right now, the confidence they have is through the roof. The energy should be pretty electric. And again, I don't love Oregon State. Like I'm kind of a hater. So the only thing I will say is opposite of you. This is maybe the first time that we've kind of disagreed on a specific bet, but I actually like the over in this game.
Really?
I do. Yeah. I think 57 is a bit too unexpected for it not to mean something. That plus the fact that I still don't like Arizona's defense. I still think it's not the worst in Power 5 football, but I still don't like it. It's not great. So I do think Arizona's offense has been really dynamic lately. So I see this game going over. Mostly my reasoning is because I think if we played like guess that line and we didn't know what the over-under was, both of us probably would have said something in the 40s.
I would have high 40s is what I would have said. So
yeah, like 48, 45, blah, blah, blah. So the fact that it's 57 kind of tells you something. Vegas is not that wrong about things often. So give me the over.
That is fair. All right, so that wraps up the game previews, best bets. I'm going to rattle off one here. My super megalodon play of the millennium is 1-0. We are undefeated in plays of the millennium, so we have another one. All right? The notes that I have for this, Nick, are just laughable, but it's hitting. Mm-hmm. It's Vanderbilt Ole Miss over 63.5. Why am I on the Vanderbilt side of this, or on the Ole Miss side of this? Lane Kiffin likes to score points. Flip side, the Vanderbilt side of this, Vanderbilt's defense sucks. So I think this game over 63.5. I legitimately think Ole Miss will have a chance to get this by themselves. That being said, Vanderbilt is 8-0 to the over. They are undefeated to the over. I think Ole Miss puts up a ton of points. Vanderbilt, when you look at their schedule, they've given up 30 plus to like every team they've played except for their FCS school win and Hawaii are the only 2 teams that they haven't given up like 30 plus points. I think Ole Miss goes 50, 60, on their own. So, that is the Super Megalodon Play of the Millennium Part 2.
That's wild. It's I don't hate it. It would scare me a little bit just as if it's my Megalodon play, just because again Vanderbilt could just put up like 0 or 7 points and it could just be so high scoring and Ole Miss scores on every possession and it still doesn't hit type vibe. So you kind of need Vanderbilt to have a conscience.
Mm-hmm.
But I still like it. My favorite bets, I just explained my Oregon State over. I like the Oregon-Utah under. If I had a Megalodon nuclear atomic bomb, any bet, it would be this. I'm not going to stamp it quite yet. I haven't found anything that I'm that confident in this week. But I do really like that under. It's 49.5. And I just don't think Utah's going to be able to put up that many points. So
There we go. Absolutely love it. This is not financial advice, but God damn it, it could be. That being said, what a week of college football. I cannot wait to watch it all. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our episodes. We're going to have some really cool stuff coming up. We got some college basketball content coming for you down the pipe here soon. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss anything. And we will see you in the next one.
Adios.